Hi guys, Dee here. Just wanted to give you a brief tutorial on our Ujjayi Breath, the way that we breathe in our yoga practice. You might have heard it in some of the classes being mentioned as you've been practicing, the teacher saying, switch on your Ujjayi Breath now if you have it in your practice. And you might be thinking to yourself, what on earth is that? And so I want to give you a quick explanation of what it is and the importance of it as well. And so Ujjayi Breath, in the Sanskrit language, Ujjayi means victory or victorious breath. And so it's a very heating breath, but it's also a very calming breath too. Like it's a breath that you can do when you want to calm yourself down. Like if you're having trouble falling asleep, you can concentrate on the Ujjayi breath and it'll help you just kind of drift off quite effortlessly because it's so calming for the nervous system. And so how we access Ujjayi breath is that there's a slight restriction in the back of the throat as we breathe in and as we breathe out. And so how we kind of experience that is we use the analogy of when you try and fog up your sunglasses to clean them. And so open your hand, place your hand in front of your mouth, and with your mouth open, see if you can breathe out like you're trying to fog up your sunglasses. And it sounds a bit like this. You can feel the warmth on your hand. And so that's the muscle activation that happens in the back of the throat as we breathe. So do the same thing. You don't need your hand this time. Close your mouth and see if you can make that same sound with that same contraction. You can hear it. You can feel the vibration and the sound. And you can actually also feel it, like when you're conscious enough, quiet enough, you can feel it calm the nervous system. And now with the Ujjayi breath, we do the same thing on the inhale as well. That same contraction happens on the inhale too. So it sounds like and notice how it slows my breathing down instantly. That's what we want to create in our yoga practice, is a mild hypo ventilation, breathing slower than what we normally do. In normal day life, quite often, especially in troubled times, that anxiety brings this really sort of shallow breathing, and we breathe more than we should, and we call that hyperventilation. And so yoga practice, hypo, breathe slower and breathe fuller than we normally do in everyday life. You might notice that it sounds a little bit like Darth Vader, and it's a good analogy. It's a good way of understanding it. It's that restriction in the back of the throat that creates an audible sound to you. You don't want to over-breathe it though, so you don't want to create too much tension in the throat where you sound like you're going to choke, or that everyone in the house can hear you. It's just it's a slight restriction that creates a small vibration that you can hear it in yourself, and maybe if you have a family member practicing next to you, they can hear it as well. As I mentioned before, it's very calming for the nervous system. The hard thing is that when you first start practicing yoga, to maintain that Ujjayi breath throughout the whole practice, especially through a quite intense sun salutation V, it's tough. And so give yourself permission, give yourself patience. At first, maybe just focus on that Ujjayi breath during the easier times, the not so intense times, and then when the intensity lifts, then just make sure you're breathing. And then eventually you'll get so good at it and so used to it that you won't even have to think about doing it. It will just happen naturally. And in fact, I've taught a lot of teachers over the years, and I've spoken to a lot of yogis and teachers and whatnot, and we all agree that now it happens naturally even in our everyday life. And so I find myself, if I'm at the grocery store and I can feel a bit of anxiety with the people around me or whatnot, I don't even think about it. I just become aware that I'm using the Ujjayi breath to breathe. Might sound a little bit funny to the people around me in the grocery store, but I don't care. If it helps my nervous system to calm down, so be it. Same goes if you're in a stressful situation, or like I mentioned before, if you're having troubles falling asleep. Great way to calm the nervous system down. Great way just to ground yourself. Great way just to slow down. Slow the breathing down. Slight restriction back of the throat. Long inhale, long exhale through the nose, mouth is closed, and then eventually you'll get really, really good at it. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again soon.